Hi everyone! Today we're going to learn how to use Sequelize. Sequelize is a super helpful tool for working with database in our Node.js project. So if you find database a bit tricky, don't worry, we'll break it down step by step. And we will base it off a previous project we've been working on. And we used Postgres, Docker, and pgadmin for that. So that's what we're going to base it off. So what exactly is Sequelize? Well, think of Sequelize as a translator. It helps our JavaScript code talk to our database without having to write complicated SQL queries directly, as we have though practiced before. And an example here, for example, select everything from athletes, like right here. So you can say Sequelize is like having a friendly helper that makes database interactions much easier. An example then, instead of saying select everything from athletes, we can then use Sequelize to write something cleaner and easier to read, like athlete dot find all. Yes, this is easier than this, you must agree. Let me also mention that Sequelize is what we call an ORM, an Object Relational Mapper. It lets us work with database tables as if they were JavaScript objects. So instead of writing the SQL queries like select everything from athletes, as I said, we can write something like athlete.findAll. This makes our code cleaner, easier to understand. Now let's get started here then in our project. So we say npm install and Sequelize, like this. There we go. Now we're going to create a new file. And this file, guess it or not, we're going to call it Sequelize.js. There we go. And let's write the following code. First of all, we're going to import Sequelize. From Sequelize. We're going to import .env from .env. We're going to configure .env so that we can use it. And we're going to work with Sequelize. So we can say Sequelize equals, and we're going to create a new instance. We're going to pull in now the environment variables. process.env dot database process.env dot database user and the password. The host process.env host port process.env database port dialect, let me explain it in a minute. And logging false. And to be able to use it elsewhere, we're going to export default Sequelize. Let's go over this for a second. So when we say here new Sequelize, we're basically saying, hey Sequelize, I want to connect to a database. Then we have process.env.database and .user and .password. And these three are like the keys to our database. So they tell Sequelize the name of the database, username, the password. And then we have this part here. This is our JavaScript object. And think of this part here as a container that holds extra information for Sequelize. So this object here tells Sequelize where the database is and what kind of database it is. So here, for example, the host. This tells Sequelize the address of our database, so localhost in our case. The port is the door number to our database, and for PostgreSQL this usually is 5432. Then the dialect, this tells Sequelize that we're using a Postgres database. Note that Sequelize can work with different types of databases, for example MySQL or SQLite. So we need to tell which one we are using, in this case Postgres. And logging is set to false. This is actually optional. When we set it to true, Sequelize will print out all the SQL queries it's running. So we can have a look at that later too. We'll see if we get to that. It can be helpful for debugging, but it can also be noisy. So setting it to false now keeps it kind of clean. Now what we'll do is we will create a new folder, models, and in here we're going to create a file called athlete.js, and we need to define our athlete in this model. So let's do that right now. We need to import the data types that come with Sequelize. We need to import Sequelize, the one we just exported. And let's create our model. And we're going to define it. It's called athlete. And you can read here, now we're going to work with objects, and an object where each attribute is a column of the table. So an object where each attribute is a column of the table. So the first column is our ID column, and it's of type, I'm going to take it from the data types, integer. It is going to be our primary key, and therefore we also wanted to increment. So that's the first column. Next column is our name column. Again, we start with type, data types, and this is going to be a string. Do we want it to be null? Nope. So we have ID, name, and what kind of sport. Type, data types, and again a string, and the same. Is it allowed to be null? Nope. And the last one, age, type, and again I want this one to be an integer. Allow null. I'll set it to false here as well. Now additionally, I also want a timestamp. Actually, no, I don't want it. I don't think we need it now. So I'm going to set that to false. Like so. And I see I did something wrong here. This one goes away, and I'm going to put that there instead. There. And last but not least, I will say the table name is athletes. There. And now let's export this. Athlete. There. Now let's update our main application file, so the index.js file. We'll need to import our Sequelize connection. We need to import this. And the athlete model, we need to import this one. And we can replace the PG pool with then the Sequelize. So in here, we can change that out. And instead we can do import Sequelize from Sequelize, and we can import athlete. Did I spell it with a capital? Yeah, correct, all good. We have to. The env is correct, this is correct, this is correct, and then this we do not need. Okay. And then we also don't need this. And now let's add code to test our database connection when the server starts. Because now we don't know, we have no connection now. So we'll say const, and I'll say tests database connection equals there, and this is going to be asynchronous, try catch, and we can say console.error, and we can say unable to connect to the database and we can add the error there. And then what we'll do here is we're going to get Sequelize to authenticate. And then once that's done, if that's successful, we can say database connection established. I can just write successfully. There. And I actually quickly checked and I forgot to add .js here, and same here. So now when we try it, you can see the database connection is successful. Brilliant. So here we actually connect to the database, and what we can do is, if there is no table, we can have it create a table. So we do await Sequelize.sync, and we can console log and saying database synced there. Now when we look at these gets here, and we said that this is of course not going to work anymore, so instead what we can say is we can say const result no, we're going to make it clear. We can say const athletes equals, and then we'll do this, but we have to await it because it's async. And then what I want to do here is we want to get the JSON, but then for the athletes, like that. So this looks much cleaner. Then if we want to post something here, what we can do is we can keep this here. That's good. And then we'll change this here. There. So we can say const, and what we want to do here is create an athlete, right? So we can say const athlete equals, and it's async await athlete dot create, and then we'll take in those name, sport, and age. So name, sport, and age, like so. And then we don't need this, we want the athlete there. When we want to update an athlete by its ID, then again we're going to keep this here, and right here we can say athlete equals await athlete, and what we want to do is we want to find by its primary key. Okay, and then we want to take the ID as the primary key. What we do here is, if there is no athlete, then we can say this. Then what we need to do here is we want the athlete.name, which is the name, athlete.sport, which is the sport, and the athlete.age, which is the age. So then we've got those, and then we can say await athlete dot, and we save the new data like that. And here we're going to say athlete. There we go. Then we have to delete. So fairly similar as here. Actually, we can take the whole part here. So now with everything in place, let's try it out. So I'm going to say node index.js, database connection successful, database synced, and I open up Insomnia. I'm going to fetch what I have now. So ID 2, awesome Michiel swimming 46, ID 3, awesome Hannah running 45. Then I have ID 2, so let's make myself 10 years younger. Put, I'm going to make myself 36. I have ID 2, send. That works. Let's see. Yep, now I'm 36. I can create a new one here. Awesome Emma 16. Horseback riding, send, that works, fetch, that works. Now let's delete Emma, and number 4, send, fetch all, send. Yeah, there we go. Everything seemed to work. Great.